Why do we follow the confident, even when they're wrong? Why do charisma and charm blind us to truth? From cult leaders to CEOs, from politics to social media, the most dangerous mask isn't deceit, it's charisma. Imagine two people standing on a stage. One speaks quietly, pauses often, glances at their notes. Their ideas are complex, cautious, maybe even brilliant, but they sound uncertain. The other speaks loudly, smiles easily, gestures with command. Their ideas are shallow, maybe even wrong, but they speak as if they can bend the world by belief alone. Now, picture the crowd. Which one do they cheer for? Which one do they trust? Which one do they follow? The answer, more often than not, is the confident one, the one with the mask of certainty, the one who looks like they know, even when they don't. We call it charisma. It's the invisible current that draws us towards some people and away from others. It's not just charm or beauty. It's a psychological illusion, a performance of conviction that tricks our brains into mistaking confidence for competence. Psychologists have studied this for decades. One of the most famous effects explaining it is the halo effect, the tendency to assume that if someone excels in one area, they must be good in others. A person who speaks well must think well. A person who looks calm must be in control. A person who acts powerful must be right. But this shortcut, while efficient, often leads us astray. When researchers at Princeton showed people photographs of political candidates and asked them to rate which looked more competent, their snap judgments predicted real election outcomes with astonishing accuracy. They hadn't heard a word of policy. They just reacted to posture, gaze, symmetry, and confidence. Democracy, it turned out, had a visual bias. The human brain is wired to read subtle signals of dominance and assurance. From an evolutionary perspective, it made sense. In small tribes, quick assessments of leadership could mean survival. The person who appeared confident under threat could rally others, even if their plan was flawed. The illusion of control was enough to maintain cohesion. Uncertainty, by contrast, triggered fear and fragmentation. So evolution rewarded the appearance of certainty, not necessarily the substance of wisdom. That instinct still governs us, only now the tribe has billions of members, and the firelight has been replaced by screens. The voice of confidence still drowns out the voice of caution. The loud, the bold, the unwavering dominate every arena from boardrooms to politics to viral videos. The problem is that charisma feels like truth. Neuroscience shows that when we encounter confident people, our brains release dopamine and oxytocin, the same chemicals linked to trust and attraction. We don't just believe charismatic individuals, we feel good believing them. Certainty is comforting. It quiets the noise of doubt, but charisma, like fire, can both warm and destroy. When used with integrity, it can inspire movements and unite nations. When corrupted, it can hypnotize millions into disaster. The line between the two is dangerously thin. Consider the most infamous examples in history. Adolf Hitler, by every account, possessed magnetic presence. Observers described his rallies as electric crowds swayed as one body, eyes glazed with devotion. He used confidence as a weapon, certainty as theater. His speeches were rehearsed with surgical precision, gestures timed to trigger applause, pauses designed to let emotion swell. People didn't follow him because of logic. They followed because his conviction felt more real than truth itself. He gave them identity, purpose, and certainty in a chaotic world. The result was catastrophe. Or take Jim Jones, the charismatic cult leader who convinced hundreds of followers to take their own lives in Guyana in 1978. Survivors described him as mesmerizing a voice that made you feel seen and safe. He preached equality, compassion, community. Then, slowly, the mask slipped. But by the time his followers saw the madness underneath, it was too late. In both cases, charisma acted as camouflage. It masked insecurity, distortion, even evil. But because people equated confidence with goodness, they didn't question it. Yet, charisma isn't always sinister. Some of history's most visionary figures, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Steve Jobs, used it to lead, to inspire, to change. The same qualities that can manipulate can also mobilize. Charisma itself is neutral. It's power that amplifies whatever lies beneath. That's why the phrase, "the mask of charisma," is so haunting. The mask can hide genius, but it can also hide madness. And we, the audience, often can't tell the difference. Psychologists call this the charisma bias, our tendency to overestimate the intelligence morality, and competence of those who exude confidence. It's a cognitive shortcut that saves time but sacrifices accuracy. In everyday life, it shapes hiring decisions, elections, even relationships. Studies show that extroverts are more likely to be promoted even when their actual performance is equal or worse than quieter peers. The perception of leadership matters more than leadership itself. Why? Because confidence simplifies complexity. It tells the brain, you don't need to think, just trust me. In a world overwhelmed by uncertainty, that promise is irresistible. Think of Elizabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos. Her calm stare, her deep, deliberate voice, her black turtleneck mimicking Steve Jobs, all symbols of visionary confidence. Investors, journalists, and even former secretaries of state fell under the spell. They didn't demand evidence because they felt her certainty. It was performative conviction, but it worked until the illusion shattered and billions evaporated. Or look at the cult of personality surrounding certain tech leaders today. Their confidence is treated as genius, their tweets as gospel, their unpredictability as brilliance. But beneath the surface, their success often depends less on competence and more on perception, the ability to project inevitability. The modern world rewards the performance of intelligence, not the slow, unglamorous work of being intelligent. Charisma hijacks the way we process power. It makes leadership a matter of theater, not ethics. A charismatic person can fill silence with authority, turn vagueness into vision, and make mediocrity sound profound. As the psychologist Robert Cialdini writes in his work on influence, people interpret confidence as a signal of accuracy. The more certain someone appears, the more we assume they must be right, even when the evidence is thin. That illusion runs deep. Social dominance theory shows that in hierarchical societies, people automatically defer to those who display dominance cues: strong posture, eye contact, assertive tone. These cues trigger subconscious associations with safety and leadership. We obey not because we've evaluated competence, but because our brains equate dominance with control. It's a vestige of tribal survival that now governs corporate meetings, political debates, and even dating apps. Watch a political debate and notice how often it's not the best argument that wins, but the best performance. The candidate who smiles confidently while deflecting a hard question is judged more favorably than the one who hesitates to find the right words. Style overshadows substance. In the marketplace of attention, certainty is currency. The irony is that many truly competent people doubt themselves precisely because they understand complexity. The Dunning-Kruger effect reveals that the less people know, the more confident they tend to be, while experts, aware of the limits of their knowledge, express uncertainty. This asymmetry means that loud mediocrity often eclipses quiet expertise. The world listens to those who sound sure, not those who are careful. In a society addicted to certainty, humility looks like weakness. We interpret nuance as confusion, caution as incompetence. The philosopher Bertrand Russell once said, "The trouble with the world is that the stupid are cocksure while the intelligent are full of doubt." That paradox defines our age. Charisma also shapes relationships. In personal life, we're drawn to people who project confidence even when it's hollow. The charismatic friend who dominates every conversation seems trustworthy simply because they appear unafraid. The quiet observer who may see more clearly often goes unheard. The same dynamic plays out in workplaces where employees mistake assertiveness for insight and confuse enthusiasm for expertise. Cultural conditioning deepens the bias. From school classrooms to Hollywood films, we're taught to admire the bold. The hero speaks with conviction, never hesitates, never doubts. The villain stutters, the genius is awkward, the humble are sidelined. By the time we reach adulthood, we equate leadership with spectacle. This myth feeds the machinery of modern politics. Voters reward candidates who project dominance, strong voice, decisive gestures, unwavering slogans. Even when those qualities mask incompetence or corruption, they feel reassuring. We don't crave truth, we crave confidence. And confidence, once performed well enough, becomes indistinguishable from truth. But charisma isn't magic, it's psychology. It operates through predictable cues. Eye contact, controlled movement, vocal rhythm, empathy at the right moments, confidence without apology. These cues activate our mirror neurons, making us feel aligned with the speaker. We sense their emotion as our own, mistaking resonance for understanding. Charismatic leaders exploit this instinct, binding followers emotionally before reasoning even begins. When the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard wrote about simulation and hyperreality, he could have been describing charisma. The performance becomes more real than reality. We don't want the truth, we want the feeling of truth. Charismatic figures deliver that sensation. Their certainty becomes our anchor in uncertainty. History is littered with examples of this illusion, both saving and destroying civilizations. The same charisma that won wars also justified atrocities. Julius Caesar inspired loyalty that rebuilt Rome and ambition that broke it. Napoleon's presence turned soldiers into zealots. John F. Kennedy's composure calmed nations. Charisma unites and divides, builds and breaks, depending on the heart behind it. But in our century, the stage has grown infinitely larger. Where once charisma was confined to podiums and pulpits, now every phone is a podium, every profile a stage. The charisma bias has been industrialized. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok are factories of self-presentation. The confident thrive because algorithms reward engagement, and nothing engages like certainty. The influencer who declares a truth with conviction goes viral. The one who hesitates is ignored. The result is a cultural feedback loop where confidence is mistaken for authenticity, and authenticity itself becomes a brand. In this economy of attention, charisma is not just an advantage, it's survival. Those who can perform certainty rise, those who cannot fade. The line between leadership and manipulation dissolves. The modern stage is everywhere. A camera lens replaces the pulpit, a comment section replaces the crowd. Social media has taken the ancient art of charisma and compressed it into pixels smaller, faster, louder. Confidence is no longer a trait, it's an algorithmic advantage. On platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, charisma is currency. Algorithms don't detect truth, they detect attention. What spreads is not depth but delivery. The louder and more emotionally charged a message, the faster it travels. In this new ecosystem, hesitation dies instantly. Nuance doesn't trend. Uncertainty doesn't go viral. The attention economy has become theater. Every influencer, politician, and entrepreneur learns the same rule. Confidence is credibility. Sound certain, and you'll be believed. Look confident, and you'll be trusted. Act unstoppable, and you'll be followed. Truth, meanwhile, is quiet and slow. That's why misinformation thrives. When a confident person declares something even without evidence, our brains reward the clarity of conviction. When an expert says, "We're not sure yet," we tune out. The instinct that once helped tribes survive now makes societies vulnerable. We mistake confidence for truth because it feels better than doubt. Social media amplifies this. A like doesn't measure accuracy, it measures resonance. When someone loudly expresses what you already feel, you feel validated. Their conviction becomes contagious. You share it, not because you've checked it, but because it feels right. Confidence spreads like a virus, infecting truth itself. Irving Goffman wrote that all social life is performance. Online, the performance never ends. We curate not just photos but personalities, projecting certainty even when lost. We brand ourselves around confidence because confidence sells. And in a market of infinite voices, the most confident win. Confidence now operates like currency, and like all currency, it can be counterfeited. A creator with half-formed ideas can outshine a qualified expert by mastering tone and rhythm. The confident rise, the competent retreat, and audiences starved for certainty choose style over substance. The tragedy isn't that charisma wins. The tragedy is that we let it. Our brains aren't built for this flood of impressions. Mirror neurons simulate others' emotions, so when we watch a confident person speak, we feel their conviction. Dopamine surges when we align emotionally with charisma. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, rises when we trust the confident. Biology conspires to make charisma addictive. That instinct once ensured survival, now it scales into chaos. We follow hundreds of micro-leaders daily, each performing confidence as if lives depended on it. The loudest survive, not the wisest. When confidence becomes spectacle, competence retreats into silence. The cautious scientist is drowned out by the pseudo-expert. The reflective thinker loses to the viral talker. The whole ecosystem rewards certainty, not accuracy, and collective understanding suffers. In politics, charisma reshapes democracy. Populists know emotion beats reason. Their power lies not in policy, but in performance appearing strong, relatable, sure. They mirror fear and amplify it back, forging loyalty through shared emotion. People follow the charismatic because they fear the void of doubt. Charisma thrives in crisis. When the world feels unstable, the illusion of control is irresistible. Kierkegaard called anxiety the dizziness of freedom. Too many choices, too much uncertainty. Charisma relieves that dizziness. It whispers, "Don't think. Follow me." Yet, charisma can also heal. A teacher who inspires confidence can awaken potential. A doctor's calm restores hope. A leader's conviction unites the divided. The same psychology that makes charisma dangerous also makes it necessary. Humanity needs leaders who can carry confidence without corruption. That is the ethical question. Is charisma manipulation or guidance? Machiavelli saw it as a weapon to be used skillfully, not morally. Nietzsche called it the mark of those strong enough to shape destiny. Both new confidence projects reality outward, bending the world toward belief. Charisma isn't mere deception, it's creation. Whether it serves good or evil depends on the heart behind the mask. But Nietzsche also warned, the will to power can intoxicate. Without conscience, charisma corrodes. Leadership turns to theater, theater to tyranny. The same light that inspires can blind when empathy dies. Ethics must anchor charisma. True leadership isn't fearlessness, but steadiness amid fear. Authentic leaders carry quiet charisma confidence born of clarity, not ego. Think of Mandela or Ardern, whose strength lies in calm conviction. Their charisma uplifts rather than dominates. Modern culture struggles to recognize that kind of strength. We mistake loudness for leadership, dominance for direction. We've become spectators addicted to the performance of power, not its substance. In business, this becomes the charisma trap. Overconfident managers rise faster, even when their results are weaker. Self-assurance masquerades as skill. The same pattern repeats from boardrooms to governments. Incompetence dressed as confidence triumphs. We live in an age where fake it till you make it has replaced mastery. Yet doubt isn't weakness, it's wisdom in motion. Charisma can be taught through posture, tone, eye contact, pacing. These skills are useful, but without self-awareness, they turn manipulative. The ethical use of charisma requires humility, the reminder that performance is not reality. Humility is rare in an economy built on ego. Every viral success story whispers, confidence equals value. Hence the flood of motivational influencers preaching certainty as salvation. Their message sells because people crave guidance. But beneath the cinematic speeches, much of it is theater. The same charisma that lifts spirits can also trap minds, reducing complex lives to slogans. We now face a crisis of authenticity. Everyone performs confidence, few are grounded in competence. Everyone projects certainty, few can sustain it. The pressure to appear sure of ourselves turns insecurity into performance art. We've worn the mask so long we've forgotten the face beneath. The cost is psychological. Anxiety and burnout rise because people must project confidence they don't feel. The gap between self and persona widens, creating dissonance. Behind polished smiles, millions feel hollow. Charisma has become both armor and prison. Hannah Arendt warned that when appearance outranks truth, society becomes fertile ground for lies. The mask eventually devours the face. To resist that fate, we must relearn the value of competence, quiet mastery, steady character, earned authority. The antidote to false charisma isn't cynicism, it's discernment. Admire confidence, but ask, what sustains it? Is it grounded in substance or smoke? Does it serve others or itself? Charisma without compassion is tyranny. Charisma with empathy is leadership. Each of us carries the charisma bias, the instinct to trust certainty. Awareness breaks the spell. When you feel drawn to someone's confidence, pause and ask, what evidence supports it? What motive drives it? That single moment of reflection turns admiration into analysis. We must also practice a new confidence, one rooted in humility. True confidence is calm. It says, I don't know yet, but I'll find out. It's the leader who admits mistakes, the expert who acknowledges limits, the friend who listens before speaking. That confidence rarely trends, but it endures. The future may depend on it. As artificial intelligence and virtual influencers multiply, charisma will be easier to fake. Deepfakes already mimic certainty perfectly. Soon, machines will project confidence without consciousness. Our survival as rational beings will depend on recognizing real wisdom beneath synthetic charm. So we start small. in meetings, conversations, and the way we choose leaders. Reward competence even when quiet. Question loudness even when charming. Shift attention from performance to substance. Celebrate humility, not hype. Charisma will always rule the stage, it's human nature. But once we understand its mechanisms, it loses power to deceive. We can appreciate the beauty of the mask without mistaking it for the face. And that brings us back to the beginning, the mask of charisma. It seduces because it mirrors what we wish were true, that confidence equals wisdom, that certainty equals truth. But beneath every mask lies a face, and beneath every performance, a motive. The challenge is to look long enough to see both. Charisma can build empires or destroy them, start revolutions or silence them, enlighten or enslave. The difference lies not in the performance's strength, but the integrity behind it. In the end, the mask of charisma isn't worn only by leaders, it's worn by all of us. Every time we choose appearance over substance, confidence over competence, we reinforce it. But each moment we stop to question, to think, to value truth over theater, the mask cracks. Maybe that's where wisdom begins, not in rejecting charisma, but in seeing through it. In a world obsessed with performance, the greatest strength may not be how loudly we speak, but how clearly we think.